Hello and welcome to Bar 20 Arms. Today we're going to do a demonstration on how to make ballistic gelatin. Now there's a lot of videos on YouTube about making ballistic gelatin, but they're wrong. I started out with other recipes from other people off of YouTube channels, but they're wrong. The consistency is wrong, the density is wrong. Ideally you want to get it as close as you can to the real thing. Well, I've done that. I've studied law enforcement data on ballistic gel, and I've gotten mine as close as possible, as humanly possible, using cooking grade gelatin to recreate ballistic gelatin. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. I'm going to give you my recipe. Now there's a lot of things that they show you in their videos that you don't either have to do or unnecessary steps, and then there's things that you can do that I've learned to make it better. So I'm going to show you all that. I'm going to give you a demonstration. All you need: gel, I'll tell you how much here in a minute, a stirring device, a mold, which I already have my mold here and I already got my water measured out into there, so I got to transfer that over to my big pan, and you'll need one of these. Now, depending on what caliber you're going to be testing, depends on how much gel you're going to need. For me, or for us here at Bar 20 Arms, we need 2 of these, let's see, it's about 18 inches long by 6 inches wide, about 4 inches tall. So for that mold, I need 2 of these blocks to capture a bullet because of the length, you know. But anyway, we'll get into that. I'm going to cut the camera here, and we're going to move in closer, and I'm going to demonstrate everything at eye level where you can see real good what we're doing. We'll give all the data there. Okay, here we are. I've already prepared our gelatin and our water in our pot. Now this is cold tap water. Now I noticed one thing on other videos, they tell you to mix it in warm water. Now I'm going to tell you why that is a bad idea. Cold water is the way to go, and one, it's on the gelatin, so it's designed to be in cold water initially. So just follow the instructions. Okay, the reason I say that is when you do warm water, it clumps up really bad. You can only put in a little bit at a time, like that, and then stir it in. With cold water, you can literally dump this whole bowl in there and mix it up. It doesn't clump up. So we're not going to dump the whole bowl, but we're going to stir it in gradually at a good rate. But we're not worried about it. Matter of fact, what I've just put in there is already dissolved. In warm water, it wouldn't do that. It would instantly kind of clump up. So cold water. Now, this is my recipe. 3.5 ounces of gel to 1 cup of water. Now, for your purpose, for your mold, if you have a different mold, you can kind of up and down with that. You could go ahead and round it up to 4. You could round, or you could try to do 3.5 packages, but that's kind of hard to do. You could do it, I guess. It'd take a lot of time. If it was me, I would just say round it up to 4.5. Now the reason I say 3.5 is because my cup of water ratio to powder, it equals out to 3.5. But I'm actually working with even numbers. 100 packets or 100 ounces of gelatin to 30 cups of water. But like I said, you'd have to kind of use your mold and go from there. But alright, so we're going to get started. We already got our cold 30 cups of water, and then we got our powdered gel. So we're going to mix this in. Now if it does clump up, don't worry. The clumping is not really too much of a big deal. I noticed on a couple of videos you can tell it irritates them, and it just seems like it's a bad thing, but it's really not, because the next step is doing something they call blooming, and that's universal. If you're using this for food product or for ballistic gelatin, it's the same process. Basically, you just let it set up at a cold state. So, and that's prior to warming it up. So Let me get a bunch of this in there. I'm really kind of an impatient kind of guy too, so anything that's a little bit easier, I'm more happy to do. But anyway, clumping is not a big deal. We're getting small clumps in here, but as soon as I hit them with the spatula here, or whatever this thing is, you can tell this ain't my kitchen, right? That's my boss's kitchen. But anyway, as soon as I hit the clumps, they just dissolve. So cold water, way to go. Stay away from warm water. Warm water is only for the cooking stage, and when you're mixing in the gel, you're not doing the cooking. So now another thing too, I see a lot of things about is making air pockets or bubbles or foaming. That too is not a big deal initially because it's got a balloon. And when it blooms, what that is it partially sets up. The process of the hardening actually initiates, and when you take it and you heat it up, that foam is instantly going to dissolve into the entire source. Now this bowl we started with was a little damp from the dishwasher. So we'll just get that out of there. See how that's already hardened, and that's only been in there a couple minutes. Now you're thinking, man, that can't be good, right? It don't matter. Gel, the beautiful thing about gel is it doesn't change. Well, it does. Okay, it changes. It gets hard and it gets soft. If you heat it up, it gets soft. It becomes a liquid. If you let it cool off, it becomes a solid. That's the only two things gel can do. Gel cannot go bad. It cannot expire. So if you get a little damp like that and it's hard and crispy because it's already dried, go ahead and throw it in there. It's not going to bloom. That portion probably will not bloom, but once you heat it up, it's going to melt and it's going to go back to a liquid state. So anyway, let's get this done here. I know other people that stunned in these videos are probably cringing right now as I'm pouring it in at this rate, but everyone I've done, I've not had any problems, and I've finally mastered the recipe. And there's probably better recipes out there. And if you can afford it, get the ordnance gel. It's kind of the same process, but it's military grade or government testing grade gelatin, which this is not. This is edible grade, but it works very well for our purpose. Alright, kind of scrape around the edges. Also really not a big deal because you're going to cook it and that's all going to dissolve. I've got a little bit of clump in here, so we're going to keep mixing for a minute. When I say clumping, it's in cold water, it's not even really that. It's just, I don't even know how to describe it, because as soon as you touch it like that, it just dissolves. The cold water is definitely the way to go. Now I don't know if you can tell, but it's already thick right now. In cold water, it's already starting the setting up process as we speak. So, alright, now we're into our second phase. We got it good and mixed up. Now, I got a little bit on my hands here. When you're cleaning it off your hands, use hot water. Hot water will dissolve it off your hands very quickly. I don't know why I'm rinse my hands off first. I'm gonna get it all off here. I laid dish towels down because if you splash it on your counter, it's gonna make a really big mess, and your boss is gonna be really upset. Like my boss is upset all the time. I'm taking over the kitchen doing ballistic gel. But anyway, forgot about this a little bit. So we get a lot of questions about our ballistic gel, our method, our recipe, and we get a lot of questions about our consistency and you know, based on our videos so far that we've done. We've done a lot of ballistic gel testing, but a lot of them didn't make it on camera because at that point in time we weren't filming. So we've been doing gel testing a lot longer than we've been doing filming. But for a while there, because of moving and all this business, I lost my recipe. I forgot my recipe, got out of touch with it. But anyway, we got it back. Everything's going good. But anyway, at this point we need to bloom it. So I'm going to set this in the refrigerator for 2 hours and let it come up or bloom. And no reason to film that. That'd be kind of boring, wouldn't it? 2 hours with the camera in the refrigerator. Alright, so let's throw it in the fridge. We'll see you back here in 2 hours, and we'll cook it down and I'll show you that part of it. Alright, now we have the bloom. Now all this is it's semi set up, so it's still, excuse me, real soft, and it's more like a jelly at this point. Okay, so now the cooking process. Now we have to return this to a liquid before we can actually cook it, and the reason is if you try to cook it right now right on the stove, it's too much heat at the bottom. You're going to end up burning it, and I have one block that I did burn. So now you need to do kind of a slower process, very effective, and that's to use hot water. So what you'll do is I just fill my sink with the hottest water I can get, and I'll put the pan in there and then let hot water build up around it, you know, stop up the sink, and then we'll melt it. So I'm going to do this process. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm not going to film that, but I will turn the camera back on once we get it melted, and then I'll show you the process. I'll show you the cooking at that point. This step's real easy. All you gotta do is get it back to a liquid state, mostly liquid. That way you can gradually heat it up at a slow rate to attain the 130-degree mark. You don't want it to get it over 130, but you want to get it as close as you can before you pour it in your mold. So while you're doing this, you want to take your mold. We'll go ahead and show you this part too, that way we ain't got to worry about that. You'll take your mold, dry it out, and use any kind of oil or PAM or anything like that. Excuse me. We got this Crisco butter flavored. We like butter flavored ballistic gel. The bullets love the butter. Good flavor. No, it really don't matter what you use. Basically, you just want to cover the entire surface, and all that's going to do is help you break it out of the mold easier. That's all it is. And it actually mixes a little bit with the gel, so you want to do just a real light coat. Turn the water off there. Alright, so that's it. Simple as that. Alright, we're going to cut the camera for right now, and we'll bring you back once it's to a liquid and we start cooking. Shoot. Alright, so now you can tell it's a liquid now. It's completely melted. There's no foam. It created a very large foam on the surface, but as you cook it down, that foam will go away. They recommend using an additive cinnamon oil, and it'll take the foam out, but I've never had to use it. If you slow cook, I used 3 on my stove. Bring it up, it comes up 3 to 4 degrees a minute, and it's real slow. But you got to stir it a lot. You keep stirring it about every minute. Come over and stir it up a little bit like this, and keep checking. Now you do not want to go over 120 degrees or 130 degrees rather. Usually what I do, I bring it up to 125, and then I go ahead and put it in the mold. It's close enough, and when you bring it out of your hot water, it's generally about, once it's all melted in the sink, it's usually about 100 degrees at that point, so it's real easy to get it to 125. But you want to do it gradually, slow, take your time, be very patient. We're at 123 now, so I'm going to let it go a little bit more. Working on a second batch here, a smaller version for another project, so I'm kind of jumping back and forth. That one's actually ready to pour. So stand by, and then we'll get the big one. Actually, we'll just wait on this. It's basically really an easy process. It's just very time consuming, and you know, like I said, you really got to take your time and be slow and sure about what you do. It's easy to burn. If you don't stir it well, it'll burn on the bottom, and it makes these little flakes and stay in there. All right, we're at a little over 125, so I'm going to go ahead and kick the stove off. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the spatula, and we're going to pour it in the mold. All right, cameraman is going to move over there. Now, they say you're supposed to pour it real slow and take your time, and I don't do that. As you can tell, that foam is coming up on the surface, but it's nothing to worry about. As it cools off, those dissipate. Wow, that was a close measurement. Keep in mind too, when you're measuring out for your form, for your mold, you gotta make sure you take into account the gel. It's gonna add to your volume. So just remember that when you're making your water content for your mold. Now you just rinse your pan out. It's easy to clean up, and there you have it. Once you finish, sorry, I had to go out in the garage and get a finished product. What you do is you leave it on the counter and let it set up. It'll set up, and I usually, what I do this at night in the evening and leave it on the counter. In the morning when I get up for work, it'll be a semi-solid state, and at that point I'll put it in the refrigerator. You have to maintain between 35 and 43 degrees for this gel, just so that it'll stay consistent, and you know, it won't, if it freezes, the water content will freeze, it'll mess up the gel. If it gets too warm, it'll just start to melt. So about 35 to 43 degrees. This one is finished, it's ready to go. It's been in there for a couple days. A block this size, you got to let it set in the refrigerator for about 24 hours before you're ready to shoot it. That's really all I got. That's a very easy process, very effective. It works really good. It's a very good recipe. I've been using it a long time. Well, long time, but I've come back and forth on it because I forget. I never write it down, but I got it in my head now. Steel trap. All right. Thanks for watching here at Bar 20 Arms. Come back and see us soon.